Today, you will learn how to make a cloth simulation inside a logo or any other domain, and how to make this abstract scene in open source program Blender 3D. So let's get into work. First of all, we need to add a logo that we will use for the cloth simulation, and you can create a 3D model, but I recommend using scalable vector graphics file, which you can find easily on the internet. Once you imported your logo, make a copy and for now, move it away. We have now two logos, so select one of them, go to curve properties and decrease the offset to make the curve smaller along normals. And then extrude the curve. We will use this one for the cloth simulation. Let's deal with the second curve object. This time we will only extrude and add a bevel in curve properties. This bigger version will serve as the collision boundary object for the cloth simulation. Now go back to the smaller curve and convert it to the mesh. But now we have a problem, because if you go to the edit mode, you will see that the topology is triangular and uneven, and if we run a simulation on this, the outcome would be awful, and we don't want that. To fix this, we need to go to object properties and find a remesh option. This feature will remesh the object with new topology full of quads, which is what we want for the simulation, and also for additional subdividing. In the remesh, select voxel mode and set the voxel size to something like 0.001 and hit remesh. You can see now that the remesh feature did a really decent job and the topology is way better than before. Let's continue with selecting the bigger logo and converting it to the mesh as well. Now, since we used the bevel in the curve properties before we converted the curve to mesh, this time the topology is slightly better, but if you pay close attention, there are some bars that are denser and we can still see some triangles. We will fix that in a moment. Now go to physics and add a collision. The only setting we will change is unchecking the single-sided feature, so we won't run into any intersecting errors. Also go to object properties, and because we need to see through the object, switch the visibility to wire. Now to deal with the topology, go to modifiers and add a decimate modifier and set the mode to planar with small angle limit just to get rid of the dense areas. For better quality, you can also add a weld modifier and place it to the top. Now select again the smaller logo and go to edit mode, and with Alt S scale the mesh to the size of the boundary with the small gap between both objects. Let's set up the cloth simulation. So go to physics and add a cloth. Now in order to make the simulation work properly, we need to make some setting adjustments. So first increase the quality step to 10, vertex mass to 10 kilograms, then scroll down and enable pressure and set the value to something like 200. After that go to cage, and since we don't need 250 frames to calculate the animation, set the end to 80, which is enough. In shape section enable dynamic mesh. In collision, increase the quality to 10 as well. Then in object collision, set the distance to 0.005, check self collision, and last thing is go to field weight and set the gravity to 0. If you press play now, you will see the simulation working properly with the boundary object. And if you are happy with the result, select the final frame and apply the simulation. For better resolution, we can add a subdivision surface modifier, so we can make a fabric ripple more visible. Also, we can now select the bigger logo and set the visibility back to solid. Let's add a solidify modifier to the bigger logo, just with a smaller thickness to avoid intersections. Now, before we move on, I thought it would be better if I also add some text under the logo. So I created a text box with a scale similar to the logo dimensions. The logo I am using for this project is Adobe logo, so I will type Adobe as a text, extrude it, bevel it, and finally place it inside the box. The font I used is called Bauhaus 93, if you plan to use it for your project as well. Also, since the logo is the only object in the scene, for more appealing composition I will add a cube big enough that it covers the whole scene, and with geometry nodes I will create a particle system, which I won't be explaining since I use this method in every video, but here is a node group that I have used to create the particles. It's just a few nodes and it will take 1 minute to set up. The final step is parenting the whole collection to empty, which will help us to move all objects at the same time. At this point the modeling part is done, so let's focus on the shading part. For the bigger logo I will create a glass material using a combination of glass BSDF node and transparent BSDF node, mixed together with Fresnel node, so the glass will be more visible on the corners and we will see better through the glass. To control the Fresnel factor more, use a color ramp to slide black and white values. Don't forget to switch from linear to ease for better transition. Then apply the material to the text box as well. For the cloth and for the text, I will use the Fresnel with color ramp again, but for this time with actual colors, with shifted hue. This will create that good looking rainbow effect with multiple colors blending together. Also increase the metallic slider to maximum and the roughness to 0.15. And for the particle system I will use the same colors, but a random value in object info node, plug into the color ramp factor socket. And that's pretty much it. Before rendering, also enable depth of field with the logo as a focused object to create an area of interest. Now you can render. Keep in mind that you are using a combination of glass and metallic material, so you will need more samples to get rid of the additional noise. You can also reduce the noise by enabling denoising data in layer properties and adding denoise node in Blender's built-in compositor, so your render will be clean and sharp. And now we are done with the project. If you like this video, drop and subscribe to Graphinity and comment your thoughts about this project. If there are something you would like to improve about my content, I want to know. By the way, check out also my recent videos if you still haven't do so. And with that, see you in the next video.